Okay, I want to talk about illness and that I don't get ill. And you know why? It's a decision. I just choose to not get sick. The last two times I chose to get sick were as follows. The second to the last was, I think it was 2015 or 16, when we were going to a family Christmas in Oregon. The entire, not my family, never has been my family. Once it was my family. My father-in-law and I were not close at all. He didn't like me. First, for the longest time, I thought was because I wasn't pedigree enough for his son. But no, it turned out he thought I wanted the money. Apparently, there's inheritance and crap in this family that I was part of. I live in a trailer now. Trust me, I'm not part of that. But yeah. So anyway, we didn't get along very well. He thought I wanted the money. And that totally makes sense now that I realize it. So I did not want to go to this Christmas, but I said yes. I just kept saying yes to things I wanted to say no to. I had this weird rash growing on me. We thought we had spiders maybe in our bed at this house. Got home a few days later and I had this horrible rash on my side. I look it up on the internet and I'll be darned tootin', I could have been dying. Yeah. So I had this big rash and I have polycystic kidney disease. So my head goes to, because it said you could have kidney failure if you just develop this certain rash. I'm like, oh, my kidneys are failing. I'm going to go into kidney failure. That's how we do this stuff, people. So I go to my nephrologist and he says, like, let's look what's going on here. And he looks at it, he goes, oh, you have shingles. I was like, yes. He was like, what? Because I thought I was going to have kidney failure because I went to the stupid internet to find out what was going on. So no, I had shingles. He gave me some Gabapent and some stuff and it was gone like in 3 days. Once I knew what it was and I realized I brought it on because I did not want to be attending this Christmas. So after that, I had been totally healthy now. I've been healthy for a long time. And I was walking down the street, 23rd in Puyallup, and it was in September. And I remember gazing up and I said, all right, universe, this was when I said universe. If I'm not supposed to be going to work for whatever reason, because it's like, I think like 40, I don't even know, many steps up to where I was working at the time. You had to go upstairs to get there. There's no other way. If I'm not supposed to be going to work, make it so I can't go, but don't break any bones. I said that and I went about my walk. And then about a week later, I did the exact same thing. I'm like, all right, I just kept saying, my life is so vanilla. My life is so vanilla. It was like, I need some rocky road or something. My life is so vanilla. So I said, if I'm not supposed to go to work, make it so I can't go. But again, don't break any bones. And that was in September. But on October 18th, I took my daughter to her cardiologist appointment and I couldn't sit down. Man, I was starting to get pretty achy. And then I went to work that afternoon. And while I was at work, I started feeling what I've heard described as sciatica. And so I sent a note to a friend of mine who's a healer. And I said, what do I do? What do I do? So she told me some stretches. So I get down on this disgusting radio station floor and I'm trying to stretch and it hurts terribly. So go home and that night go to bed. And about 2 a.m, I fell out of bed. I could not walk. I was practically paralyzed. I've never known pain like this. So I crawled myself downstairs, grabbed my keys, and I drove myself to the hospital. My ex-husband needed his beauty sleep. He never did that stuff. He needed his rest. X. So I drove myself to the hospital. I had to lay there on a bench for 4.5 hours waiting to be seen. And they gave me a little bit of pain medication and sent me home. And then 10 days later, I was able to get an MRI. What had happened was they just thought I wanted pain pills for sciatica. But when they finally did the surgery on November 9th, October 18th to November 9th, oh, I was eating pain medication like crazy. I was in so much pain. When they did the surgery, he said he was doing all the pinched nerve repair, And then he got to this one pinched nerve and he followed it. And it took him to my tailbone, which was inflamed with infection. I had infection in my muscle, my tailbone, everything around my tailbone was infected. And so once they realized that, they were like, oh, that's what the problem was. This was the beginning of my trip into silence, because with this surgery and this pain, I sat in a recliner in the living room for 45 days. I didn't have the television on. I stared and I just listened. I heard my ex, well, he was my husband at the time, and my daughter fighting. And I remember one time he came down and he's like, looking like, he goes, Hannah's really mad because I wasn't there for the surgery. Because the surgeon comes out to my 18-year-old daughter at the time and says, your mother has a tailbone infection. She was scared to death. He had a work commitment he didn't want to get out of. So she was pissed at him and she gave it to him. So he comes down and he looks at me like, was that bad? I mean, literally, guys. I guess I'm gonna have that like symbol everywhere from now on. Why? He's the ex. So after I was diagnosed, the next day I had to go to an infection doctor across town where they had to set me up with IV antibiotics, and they had to teach me how to do it because I would be giving myself these IV antibiotics for 8 weeks. And then I would have to take, and I can't remember the size of it, like that big of a jug of antibiotics that they gave me to continue. I had to take, I don't know how many of those jugs I went through, probably 6 months I went through antibiotics. And the best part, and I don't mind talking about personal stuff because we all know how women operate. So women, you know, if you're taking a whole bunch of antibiotics, what do you know happens to you? No, see, it doesn't. I told the infection doctor, he says, you know, you're going to need a lot of probiotics. You're going to need yogurt because you're going to get a lot of yeast infections. I'm like, no, I'm not. He said, yeah, you are. I said, no, I'm not. I hate them. When we were all done, pretty much my exit appointment with this man, I was with him for, a very long time. And I said, oh, by the way, never once did I have a yeast infection. He's like, oh, I'm like, it was a choice. It is a choice. I manifested the illness. I asked the universe to make it so I couldn't go to work, but don't break any bones. I was disabled, completely disabled for, I mean, it was a year before I could go back to soccer and play soccer again. I was completely disabled, but I took this time as introspect. It was like, I brought this on. It told me the power we have. And so I realized it's like I had shingles and then I had the tailbone infection. And that was the last time I've had any kind of illness whatsoever, except for the things that happen as you're transforming and things that happen for me to understand this transformation. See, prior to shingles, I was in this marriage where I said yes to things I didn't want to, like going to Christmas with my father-in-law. And I was sick so much. I remember our New Year's Eve parties. I threw big karaoke parties, and frequently I couldn't sing because I had laryngitis really bad. I was so sick so often. Oh my God, I was sick so often. I think I was in the emergency room 6, 7 times where I drove myself each time because there was football games and golf and stuff, on. Twice with anaphylaxis when my throat was closing, but it was okay. I could still drive. When I was moving into my new home, I was coming by myself. My ex-husband was going to be bringing a truckload of my belongings because I have a small car and the dog. And I just remember telling him, don't bring her for 5 days because I'm going to be laid up. That's all I knew. So I move into this house. The day I move in, I feel my right kidney and my liver are inflamed. They are huge. And rather than do what I did when I had shingles and go to Google and try and figure out what was going on, or what my daughter and my husband wanted me to do, they're like, you need to get to the hospital. You need to go to an emergency room. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. So what I did, I have a couch. I laid on my couch with a pile of blankets all day long. I was delirious. I had a very high fever. I just remember laying there, feeling the enlarged liver and kidney, and that my lungs were compromised. It was very hard to breathe because it was so tight in there, but I was at such peace. I would just breathe into it. I could visualize it. I'm like seeing it. I was one with it. And I was at peace because I knew my body had to go through something. I was leaving 26 years of a life behind. I had shifted and transformed so much over my life. And this I knew was going to be the big one. It's like I had to shed my old life, my old system, the parts of me that were still attached to that life. I don't even know what it was, but I had to go through this shedding process. And then I was reborn into this new person that I've been becoming since I've been here. And it has been pretty fantastic. So for 5 days, I laid there and I was the pain. And I was so okay with it because I knew I was coming out on the other side. I knew every journey I set myself up for in this lifetime that I've got through them. And so I was not going to not get through this one. I knew it was a matter of time. I had a friend of mine who is a shaman. I've done some videos with her, Maria Elena Mexia. You might want to check her out. She called me on that Saturday on Zoom to do a healing. She wanted to work with me and see, just to make sure I think that I was on track. And she did call, and I just remember having the computer open, and that's all I remember. But she did confirm, like, you're being reborn. It's a birthing process you're going through, and being born is painful. And I just knew it. So I was so one with it. I was so at peace with it. And then by the time my ex showed up with the dog, I still was a little tender, and I realized I couldn't wear high-waisted pants, but I was fine. It was like 5 days. I had to get through this thing. What we do, people, and this is where we're so screwed up. These things, it's like I Googled rash on side and it showed me you're going to die. You need dialysis. I have gone inside. I don't go research outside of myself. Because we have this information doesn't mean we need to access it. It means you should stay away from it. I knew that I could heal my body. I became one with my body. I saw it, I felt it, and I knew I was going to be fine. And then I had another experience that was fascinating. And this was just a few weeks ago. I eat popcorn every night, skinny pop from Costco, and I'm going to die soon because I think I'm on my last bag and I will run out. And that scares the crap out of me because I can't get to Costco. I can't be gone from my dog that long because I live on the coast. But I had a piece of popcorn stuck up in my tooth. Hi, honey. Stuck up in my gums, which I get that often, then it works its way out. It's no big deal. So I had a piece of popcorn, like the kernel part stuck up in my tooth. And so this night when I'm brushing, I'm like, oh, that's not coming out. It was like stuck. So no big deal. The next day, I felt it was way up. It's on the top tooth in the back, and it was way up inside the gums. And I'm like, oh, lovely. But I just like kind of knew it's like, it's going to work its way out. Like, it's not going to get infected. It's not nothing because it's just a piece of popcorn. So a few days go by, and this thing starts growing. It started getting big. I've got this thing on my wrist. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, the little bone. I just call it a little bone spur. It felt like that. I was like, and it was on the inside of my mouth, so my tongue could catch it. And I was like, well, got a little bone. I was like, that's weird. Okay, whatever. So I sent a text to my ex and I said, I still have dental insurance, right? And he said, yeah, you do. So at this point, I knew it's like, I can go to a dentist if I want, and they could clean it out for me, or just I could let it ride. So I moved about the cabin. I went on with my life. A few days later, I'm walking the dog, and the thing inside of my mouth now is the size of a Whopper, the chocolate candy. It's like, it's very big now, but it doesn't hurt at all. It's just in there. And so I'm at the space to where I was walking my dog. Actually, I was walking by the RV park here where I live, and I'm walking my dog and I'm feeling with my tongue and I'm thinking, I could go to a dentist. And then I looked at an RV and the name of the RV was Lance. I'm like, and they can lance it. And then I was told I can lance it myself. I could right then lance it and it'd be fine. But then I'm like, it's my mouth. It's like, I don't want to lance it in my mouth. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that wasn't the best idea. So this thing was huge. It was huge. And I just, once again, I'm like, I'm not going to give it any attention. It's totally fine. It's nothing. I just have to be one with it. My tongue just has to say, okay, I got this big thing in the mouth and I'm not going to be bothered by it. Literally, I gave it no attention whatsoever. So by the time that night rolled around, I was eating my popcorn, still eating my popcorn. And even on that side, I was feeling it. And it was more a jawbreaker. It got bigger than a Whopper. It was the size of a jawbreaker. And I was like, that's it. It's nothing to me. It's nothing. This is such an amazing story. I lived it and I shared it with people. So I can't believe it. So I was at the space where I was like, I do not, there's nothing here. I have nothing. I'm manifesting this. I'm creating it. It doesn't exist. So went to bed that night and with the intention, I'm not going to give it any more attention. So I go through my morning routine and so does my dog. And then I go to walk her. And it's, we're just walking, doing a little thing. And then I walk by a house that has a clock on the outside of it. And I looked at the clock and it said 8:30. And at 8:30, my tongue went there. There was nothing. There was not even, because I thought like a kernel would be there. There was nothing. It was flat as could be. And immediately I start giggling and laughing and crying because I just can't believe how wonderful and magnificent this world is. But it's just because I trust me. I listen to me. I don't go outside of me. I have been a hermit for so long that all I do is spend time inside, and it's not in my head, it's in my soul. I come from my higher self. And coming from this space, I know that I cannot attract any illness. Why do you think I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old dog that's with me who is not sick? She can't get sick either. We don't have any illness. Oh, I forgot. When I had my tailbone infection, my dog developed a mysterious infection that they could not figure out. And so she had to be on antibiotics. And prior to that, in 2013, I had alopecia. My hair started falling out. My cat, Coda, kindred spirits, she passed at 16. She lost her hair. We're connected. Everything is connected, and we never have to get ill. We never have to choose to be sick. It started with me starting to say yes to things to me that I wanted to say yes to. And I never said yes to things that I ever wanted to say no to again. We choose to be sick. I've chose to never be sick again. I am more youthful and energetic. I could do cartwheels down the beach today like nobody's business. And I'll continue to get younger. That's it. Bye.